Hello everyone, I hope your half-term revision is going well. For this video, I've created an additional EDEXCEL GCSE Maths Higher Paper 2 practice paper, and this video will be going through all of the solutions. It's fairly similar to my previous prediction paper, it uses the same advanced information, but I've changed the questions a little bit so you've got some additional practice. As before, you can find a link to the paper so you can try it in the video's description down below. So for question 1a and b, we need to write down the value of m to the power 0. You should know that any number to the power 0 is just 1, so m to the power 0 is just 1. For this next question, we're going to start by multiplying b to the 4 and b to the 7. When you multiply these, you add the powers, so we'll do 4 add 7, which is 11, so b to the power 11, and then we're going to divide that by b squared. When you divide, you subtract the powers, so 11 take 2 is 9, so the answer to this is b to the power 9. For this question, we need to expand and simplify x take away 3 all squared. This means x take away 3 times by another x take away 3. So we'll expand this with FOIL, x times x is x squared, x times negative 3, negative 3x, negative 3 times x is negative 3x as well, and negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. We can collect together the like terms, so we've got negative 3x take away another 3x, so it's x squared take 6x plus 9. For part D, we need to factorise, which means to put back into brackets. If we look at the final term here, the plus 20, let's consider the factors. You have 1 in 20, 2 in 10, and 4 in 5. You also have the negative factors, so you've got negative 1, negative 20, negative 2, negative 10, and negative 4 and negative 5. We need one of these pairs that adds together to make negative 12, so that will be this one here. So the brackets are x take 2 and x take 10. In the year 2020, we have a car that cost £30,000. The next year, 2021, it's worth 20% less. Now if something's worth 20% less, you've now got 80%, because you do 100%, take away 20%, which gives you 80%. So to work out the value in 2021, we'll take the previous value, which was £30,000, and times it by 0.8. That's the decimal multiplier for 80%. And this gives you £24,000. Then we move on to 2022, where it's worth 10% less than the previous year. So for 2022, we'll do the previous amount, which was 24,000, and think 100% take away 10%, that's 90%, so we'll multiply by 0.9. And if you do this, you get 21,600. Now in the question, Ethan says that between 2020 and 2022, it loses 30% of its value, presumably because Ethan has added 20% and 10%. So if we look what actually happens between 2020 and 2022, now if a car were to go down by 30% of its value, it would now be worth 70% of the original amount. So if we take the original amount, 30,000, and times it by 0.7, which is the multiplier for 70%, you get £21,000. But we know from our calculations that it's actually worth £21,600. Since these two numbers are not the same, we've shown that Ethan was wrong. In this question, we have Peter and Wendy who are converting their money into euros. Let's start with Peter, who has £400. The exchange rate for pounds to euros is £1 is 1.2 euros. This means to go from pounds to euros, we multiply by 1.2, and to go back the other way, we divide by 1.2. Since Peter has £400, and we're going from pounds to euros, we'll multiply by 1.2. So £400 times 1.2 gives you 480 euros. Now let's look at Wendy, who has $264. The exchange rate here is €1 equals $1.1. So to go from euros to dollars, you'll multiply by 1.1, and to go from dollars back to euros, you'll divide by 1.1. Now Wendy has dollars and we're going to euros, so this time we're going to divide by 1.1. So $264 divided by 1.1 gives you 240 euros. And we want to know the total amount of money, so we add the 480 euros and the 240 euros together, which gets you 720 euros. For the first part of this question, we need to write down the error interval for the height of the rectangle. In the question, we're told the height of the rectangle is 3 centimeters, but it's to the nearest centimeter. So to get the error interval, we'll just take half a centimeter from 3 and add half a centimeter onto 3. So 3 take away half a centimeter is 2.5, and 3 add half a centimeter is 3.5. Now we need to do the error interval for the area of the rectangle. It hasn't asked us for the error interval for the width, but we're going to need to do this in order to find the error interval for the area. So we're told the width of the rectangle is 9 centimeters, again to the nearest centimeter. So the error interval for width would be 8.5 up to 9.5. Now to find the area of a rectangle, you're going to multiply the height by the width. So to find the lowest possible area for this rectangle, we'll multiply the lowest height, which is 2.5, by the lowest width, which is 8.5. And if you multiply both of these together, you'll get 21.25. In a similar way, to get the maximum area, we'd multiply the maximum height, 3.5, by the maximum width, 9.5. And this gives you 33.25. For part A of this question, we need to rotate the triangle 180 degrees about the origin. So to do this, take some tracing paper, trace the shape, mark a point at the origin, and then place your pen at this point. Turn the page 180 degrees, so that's half a turn round like this, and then trace the shape in its new location. It asks us to label this triangle A. Now we'll move on to part B. So for part B, we need to reflect it in the line x equals 1. So once again, we'll use tracing paper and we'll trace the shape, and then we need to draw on the line x equals 1. This is a vertical line that goes through 1 on the x-axis like this. You can now take that tracing paper and flip it over, and place it back on so that the mirror lines match. And you'll see the new location for the shape, and if you draw it here, and label it B. In this question, we're told the amount of milk in 3 small cartons is 660 millilitres. So to find the amount in 1 carton, you just do 660 divided by 3, which is 220 millilitres. We're also told that the ratio for the small carton to the large carton is 4 to 5. Now we know how much is in a small carton, it's 220. So we need to work out what do we do to 4 to get to 220. If you do 220 divided by 4, you'll get 55. So this is times 55. So if we do times 55 on the other part of the ratio, 5 times 55 gives you 275. So a large carton must have 275 millilitres. In the question, we were asked for how much milk is in 10 large cartons. So we know 1 is 275, so we do 275 times 10, which gets you 2,750 millilitres. If you type this calculation into your calculator exactly as it is, you'll get 913.345202. Now just make sure you write down all of the figures for your calculator display as it asked in the question. For the second part, we need to round this number to 2 significant figures. The second significant figure here is this 1. So we look after the 1, which is a 3, which means we'll round down. So to 2 significant figures, this would be 910. For this question, we need to do a sketch of the graph y equals sine x. You should know that sine and cos both oscillate between 1 and -1, so we'll mark those on the axis. Sine starts at 0, then at 90 it goes up to 1, at 180 it goes back down to 0, at 270 it goes down to -1, and 360 it goes back to 0 again. And then you just join these points up with a nice smooth curve like this. In this question, we're told the pressure is 50 newtons per centimetre squared. We're also told the area is 300 centimetres squared. So if we look at the formula we're given, we can work out the force by rearranging this. Force equals pressure times area. So to get the force, we do pressure, which we know is 50, times the area, which was 300. And this gives you 15,000 newtons. Now we need to imagine that the cuboid is turned so the area is different. It's now 0.8 meters squared. And we need to work out the pressure. So we'll use the formula pressure equals force. Now the force is going to be the same because it's the same cuboid, so 15,000 newtons, and we're going to divide it by area. But you need to be careful. The area we've been given is in meters squared, but it says to give your answer in newtons per centimetre squared. So we need to change the meter squared into centimetre squared. You need to know that 1 meter squared is the same as 10,000 centimetres squared. So 0.8 meters squared times 10,000 will give you 8,000 centimetres squared. So rather than dividing by 0.8, we need to divide by 8,000. If you type this into your calculator, you'll get 1.875 Newton per centimetre squared. In this question, we're told that lines L2 and L1 are both parallel. If lines are parallel, they always have the same gradient. We can see the gradient of line L1 here That's negative 4, because it has negative 4x. So our line L2 must be y equals negative 4x plus c, since it has the same gradient. We're also told that the line L2 passes through the point negative 0.5, 30. So if we substitute x for negative 0.5 and y for 30, we can find c. So we'll start with y, which is 30, which equals negative 4 times x, which we know is negative 0.5, and then plus c. So we have 30 equals negative 4 times negative a half is positive 2, and then plus c, and if we take 2 from both sides, you'll get c equals 28. Now that we know c is 28, we can write the equation of the line y equals negative 4x plus 28. For this question, we need to complete a box plot. You can already see they've plotted some of it for us. They've plotted the lowest, the lower quartile, and the median. So if we plot the highest, which is at 5.5, we just draw a vertical line at 5.5 like this. And then we have the interquartile range at 2.5. Now we don't plot 2.5. We're going to use the interquartile range to work out the missing value, which is the upper quartile. Since the interquartile range is the difference between the upper and lower quartiles, if we take the lower quartile, which is 2, and add the interquartile range 2.5, we'll get the upper quartile at 4.5. So we draw a line at 4.5, and then complete the box plot like this. For this question, we need to make two comparisons. We'll start by comparing the medians. So if we look at carp, the median mass for carp was 3.5, and the median for barbel was 3. This means the carp are heavier, so we would say the carp were heavier on average as their median was higher. We can now compare the interquartile ranges. The interquartile range for carp is 5.5, take 2.5, which is 3, and then if we do the same for barbel, we would get 4.5 take 2, which is 2.5. So barbel has a lower interquartile range. We could therefore say the masses of barbel were more consistent as their interquartile range was lower. For this question, we need to translate a graph. If you look at the equation we've got here, the +2 inside the function means we're going to move the function 2 spaces to the left. The -4 outside the function means we're going to move 4 spaces down. So our total translation is 2 left and 4 down. So if we draw the function and move it 2 left and then 4 down, we end up here. For part B of this question, we're being asked to do the transformation y equals negative f of x. When you have a negative before a function like this, you're going to reflect it in the x-axis. So this point A marked here will actually reflect down to here. This has coordinates 6, -6, so that's the answer. This is a capture-recapture question. So we have two captures, and in both of the captures we want the proportion of rabbits that are marked to be the same. So if we look at the first capture, there were 15 captured, out of a total which we don't know, so the proportion that are marked is 15 out of a total x. For the second capture, we're capturing 10 rabbits, and 6 of those were marked, so the proportion that are marked is 6 over 10. These proportions will be the same, so all we need to do now is a bit of rearranging. If we times both sides by x and both sides by 10, we'll get 15 times 10 equals 6x. We can then divide both sides by 6, which gives us 15 times 10 over 6 equals x, and if you type this into your calculator, you'll get 25 for x. For part A of this question, we need to find an inverse function. So we have f of x, which is 10 minus 4x, so we'd write y equals 10 minus 4x. If we then switch x's and y's around, so we have x equals 10 minus 4y, we now need to make y the subject. What I would do here is take x from both sides and add 4y to both sides, so you'll get 4y equals 10 minus x, and then divide both sides by 4, which will give you y equals 10 minus x over 4. Now that we've got y as the subject again, we can see the inverse function will be 10 minus x over 4, so that's our answer. For part B, we need to do a composite function, gf of x. The function g of x is x over 2 plus 3. So we're going to write this function out again, but in place of x, write the whole f function, which is 10 minus 4x. So we have x over 2, so we'll do 10 minus 4x over 2, and then plus 3. This can simplify a little, so the fraction is over 2, so we can just divide 10 by 2 and negative 4x by 2. Half of 10 is 5, and half of negative 4x is negative 2x, and then plus 3. We can simplify this again because we've got 5, add 3, which is 8, so this is 8 minus 2x. And for the final part, we'll need to solve f of x equals g of x. So we're just going to set both of these functions equal to each other. So 10 minus 4x equals x over 2 plus 3. To solve this, I would times by 2 on both sides. If you times by 2 on the left, you get 20 minus 8x. And if you times by 2 on the right, that 2 will cancel, but the 3 will double to 6. So it's x plus 6. We can now add 8x to both sides. If you add 8x to the left, you get 20. And if you add 8x to the right, you get 9x plus 6. And then take 6 from both sides. Take 6 from the left is 14. And if you take 6 from the right, the 6's cancel, so you're just left with 9x. And finally, divide both sides by 9, gives you x equals 14 over 9. In this question, the first thing you need to notice is that the two angles marked are opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral. This means if we add them together, so 3x plus 2 add 3x take 8, it must give 180. If we simplify the left, 3x add 3x is 6x, and 2 take away 8 is negative 6. This equals 180. Add 6 to both sides, you'll get 6x equals 186. And then divide 6 on both sides, x equals 31. Now that we know x equals 31, we can work out the size of those two marked angles. So if we do 3 times 31, take 8, we find this angle is 85, and 3 times 31 add 2, we find this angle is 95. The next thing we want to do is use the fact that triangle ABC is isosceles, so these two lengths here are the same. This means the angle ACB is also 85 degrees. Now if you add together the two angles we found in this triangle, 85 and 85, you get 170, and since the angles in a triangle add up to 180, 180 take 170 gives you 10. So the angle at the top here, BAC, is 10 degrees. Now remember, in this question we've got a trapezium, and we've been told that lines AB and DC are parallel. So if we draw this on here, bearing in mind that AB and DC are parallel, we have some alternate angles. So angle DCA is also 10 degrees. Now if we just look at the top triangle, ADC, we've got two of the angles, we've got 95 and 10, so if we add those together, we get 105, and again take this from 180, you'll get 75. So the missing angle on the left is 75 degrees, which was the one we were trying to find. In this question, we're trying to find the volume of the shape. The shape is in two parts. We have a cylinder and a hemisphere. Let's look at the cylinder first. The diameter of the cylinder is 20 centimeters, which means the radius here is 10 centimeters. That's also the radius of the hemisphere, so 10 centimeters. And since the radius of a hemisphere is constant all the way around, we can see the height of the hemisphere is also 10. Now if this height is 10 and the height of the whole shape is 32, then we can find the height of the cylinder. That must be 22, since 32 take away 10 is 22. So we can now work out the volume of the cylinder. The formula for that is volume equals pi times the radius squared, so that's 10 squared, times the height of the cylinder, which is 22. And this will give us 6,911.50 and so on. We'll now turn our attention to the hemisphere. So the volume of a sphere is given, but a hemisphere is half of this. So we'll do 1/2 times 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed, and we know the radius is 10, so times 10 cubed. And this will give you 2094.39 and so on. And if we add both of those volumes together, we'll get the total volume, which gives you 9005.9. For this question, we're going to start by looking at the leftmost triangle, so the one with 400, 150 and 350. If we label all of the sides as follows, and then the corresponding opposite angles as follows, we can use the cosine rule to find out angle A. So cos of A equals b squared plus c squared, which is 400 squared, plus 500 squared, take away a squared, which is 350 squared. And then we divide this by 2bc, so 2 times 400 times 150. If you type the right hand side of this into your calculator, you'll get cos A equals 0.5, in which case A is inverse cos of 0.5, which gives you 60 degrees. So we find out that angle A is 60 degrees. In the question, we're told this shape is a trapezium, so if we mark on like this, we can see we have alternate angles. So angle BDC is also 60 degrees. If we now turn our attention to the rightmost triangle, triangle BCD. If we label it in the following way, A and then opposite capital A, and then B and opposite that capital B, we can use the sine rule to work out the missing angle capital A. So sine A over A is sine B over B. We don't know A, so we'll write sine A, but we know little a, that's 400, and then we've got sine of capital B, which is sine 60, divided by little b, which is 200 root 6. If we times both sides by 400, we'll get sine A equals 400 sine 60 over 200 root 6. If you type the right hand side into your calculator, you'll get this. And then to get A, do inverse sine of this, which gives you 45 degrees. So we know this angle here at the bottom right is 45 degrees. Now we can work out the missing angle in this triangle very easily because angles in a triangle add up to 180. Since we've got 60 and 45, we can add them, which gives you 105, and then take that from 180, which gets you 75. So the angle DBC at the top of the triangle is 75. Finally, if we label them in the following way, so capital A and capital B and B, we can use the sine rule one more time to find the side at the bottom. So little a over sine A is little b over sine B. We don't know little a, but we know capital A, that's 75. We know little b, that's 400. And we know capital B, that's 45. So if you rearrange this, you'll get A equals 400 sine 75 over sine 45, which if you type into your calculator, gives you 546.4 meters. And that's the answer to the question. In this question, the universal set is all of the integers less than or equal to 15. We need to place them into the Venn diagram, so we've got set A, which is factors of 60, and set B, which is prime numbers. So if we start with the number 1, that's a factor of 60, but it's not a prime number, so it'll just go in the A circle. Number 2 is a factor of 60, but it's also prime, so it goes in the middle. That's the same with 3. 4 is not prime, but it is a factor of 60. 5 is prime and a factor of 60, so that goes in the middle. 6 is just a factor of 60, but not prime. Now 7 is prime, but not a factor of 60, so that goes in the right circle. 8 is neither a factor of 60 nor is it prime, so that goes outside of the circles. 9 is the same. 10 is a factor of 60, but not prime, so that goes in the A circle. 11 is prime, but not a factor of 60, so that goes in the B circle. Then we have 12, which is a factor of 60 only, 13, which is prime only, 14, which is neither prime nor a factor of 60, so outside, and then finally 15, which is just a factor of 60. For part B, we've got a number that's chosen at random from this. What's the probability it's in the intersection? So the intersection refers to the middle part of the Venn diagram here. There are 3 numbers in there, and 15 numbers altogether, so the probability is 3 over 15. Or you could simplify this to 1/5. In this question, we're told that AB to BC is the ratio 2 to 7. This means if you do AB over 2, that will equal BC over 7. Now we know AB, that's 2x minus 4, so we can write 2x minus 4 over 2, but we don't know BC, so that's BC over 7. On the left-hand side, we can half 2x minus 4, that's just x minus 2, and then if you times both sides by 7, you'll get BC equals 7 lots of x minus 2, which if you expand, gives you 7x minus 14. So we now know the length of the base of the triangle BC, that's 7x minus 14. Next, we're told the area of the triangle is greater than 700 centimeters squared. So if we work out the area of the triangle, that would be 1/2 times the base, which is 7x minus 14, times the perpendicular height, which is 2x minus 4, that's going to be greater than 700. Now if we times both sides of this by 2, on the left-hand side, the half will cancel, and on the right-hand side, times by 2, you get 1,400. Next, we'll expand the brackets, so 7x times 2x is 14x squared, 7x times negative 4 is negative 28x, negative 14 times 2x is negative 28x also, and negative 14 times negative 4 is positive 56. And the right hand side is still greater than 1,400. On the left we can simplify, we've got negative 28x and negative 28x, so 14x squared, take 56x, plus 56 is greater than 1,400. And from here we want to get 0 on the right hand side, so if we subtract 1,400 from both sides, if you do that on the left, you've still got 14x squared, you've still got take 56x, but positive 56 take 1,400 is negative 1,344, and if you take 1,400 from the right, you just get 0. Now if we divide both sides of this by 14, you'll get x squared. 56 divided by 14 is going to give you negative 4, and then negative 1,344 divided by 14 gives you negative 96. And of course 0 divided by 14 is still 0. So we've now shown that this is true. For the final part of this question, we need to solve the inequality. To do this, we'll factorise the left-hand side. There are two brackets, and they would be x take 12 and x plus 8. This gives you two critical values, which are x is 12 and x is negative 8. If we draw the graph of this then, we know the quadratic graph will cross through negative 8 and 12, so it will look something like this. Since our inequality said greater than 0, we're interested in the two parts marked here in red. Since they are above the axis, they're greater than 0. So this leaves us with two sets of x values. We could either have x is less than negative 8, or x is greater than 12. So there are two parts to this solution. If you think more practically though, we can't have a negative length for this triangle. So if x was less than negative 8 and you substituted negative 8 in, you'll see you'll end up with a negative length for AB. So this can't be part of our solution. However, when x is greater than 12, this does work. So our solution is x is greater than 12. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. There are some suggested grey boundaries here. Also check out the video I think you should watch next and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.